Hello, welcome to Sheffield Board Gamers. This is episode 15. I'm here with Tom Cauldron. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Rick.
Hello, just us today, so thank you for joining me. We've got a few things to talk about this month. We're going to talk about a few games that we've been playing recently. We've got an interview with Ellie Dix, and Ellie Dix runs the Dark Imp Gaming, so she's going to tell us about some of the stuff she's been doing. And we're going to have a quick discussion about online conventions with everything weird that's still in place at the moment, and we're still not meeting, so everything is kind of moved online at the moment.
Yeah, kind of weird.
So a few bits in the news end that I've seen recently. There's a few big announcements that have been made. I think it's just been recently been the Gen Con convention, which is an online convention that's been and gone. That's all over now, but traditionally a lot of publishers release the games at that point and announce new games that are coming out as well. So one of the new things that's been announced is Seven Wonders is getting a new edition. It's one of my favourite games, and
yeah, it's a great one.
A good drafting game, good card game. It's quick to play. It's 3 to 7 players. It plays up to 7 players, but it still plays in like 30, 40 minutes. If you know what you're doing. Obviously, there's a lot of icons to learn and things like that. But yeah, it's getting a new edition. So this is like an anniversary edition. It's like a deluxe edition. It's got slightly new icons. They changed some of the resources around on the cards slightly.
Mm-hmm. I think they've included a few of the expansions that have been released over the years, and that'll be in
really?
the box.
That's good.
So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, the backs of the cards are like in a glossy kind of shiny print, so that looks really nice. So yeah, looking forward to trying that one out. I think it's essentially the same game. It's going to be pretty much exactly the same. You probably won't want to pick this up if you've got all the expansions already, because there's like 4, maybe 5 expansions already.
Oh God,
there are promos. Yeah, there's quite a lot, and people obviously who like the game have bought all those already, so it's probably not worth, just a slight redesign to upgrade it, but it's going to be good for new players. I think it's going to look really impressive. I think, as far as I'm aware, all the artwork is the same, so all the pictures and everything are all exactly the same. They have been slightly expanded.
It's a classic game.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I think the pictures have been slightly expanded, so they cover more of the card, and like a slightly new graphic redesign. But yeah, so that looks like a good game, and yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that one.
Yeah, whenever we have it out at the club, when we did have meetings at the club, I always think, why don't we have this more often? Because it's great to get if you've got like a big group, 5, 6 or 7, it's a bit awkward to find a game, but then if they say, let's play Seven Wonders. Great.
Yeah, it is good for higher play counts.
Yeah, plays just as well with 7 as it does with 3, which is really clever.
Yeah, it really does, yeah. Another announcement that's made is Twilight Imperium, 4th edition, is getting a new expansion. So
yeah, I saw this, and the expansion itself costs as much as 2 normal games. So yeah.
Oh, really? I've not looked at that. You do get a lot in it.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be something like £80 or something for this expansion box. So.
There's quite a few people at the club who really like Twilight Imperium. It's the epic 4X game, the space opera kind of game, where you kind of expand your empire and there's a bit of combat, a bit of politics, a bit of, upgrading your stuff to get better things. So it's quite a big game, and
it's a real event when you get together to play that.
It is, yeah. It's a day or a weekend, isn't it, to get together?
I've only played the 3rd edition one, so I've never tried the new 4th edition thing, but it's essentially the same game with some tweaks and.
Yeah. Slightly refined, and slightly, again, a graphical upgrade maybe to slightly different graphical design.
Yeah.
But it's an absolutely huge box. So you were saying about the expense there, that it's going to be quite an expensive game. But you do get a lot in there. You get 7 new factions. Yeah,
you can put the player count up to 8, like we had with the expanded Twilight Imperium 3.
Yeah, it goes up to 8 players. So the base game goes up to 6, and it adds 2 extra player components. There are new tiles, there are leader cards, there are relics, there's all sorts of stuff in there. So if you like Twilight Imperium, that's going to be a good addition. It all fits in with the new edition, the 4th edition. So that's something that I think a few players at our club are going to have a look at. Plus, if you're playing with 6 or 8 players, you can kind of spread the cost between you as well. So if it's going to be like something that you play regularly, I think some of our members before the pandemic were playing like once a month or once every couple of months. And you get the same people around and you play for a full day. You can all kind of chip in, can't you, and put a bit towards it, perhaps.
Yeah, you got a regular group, yeah.
So that's something to look forward to. And then the other big piece of news is Pandemic Legacy Season 0 has been announced.
Now, this is the one I'm most likely to get out of these.
Yeah, me as well, I think, yeah.
I played both Season 1 and Season 2, which were fantastic.
Yes, oh, have you? Right, okay.
Yeah, so.
We were about halfway through Season 2 when everything stopped, so I think we're on about June or July. Yeah. We haven't got any further than that, so we've been opening boxes and sticking stickers and ripping up cards and things like that. I'm really enjoying it. And the first one, yeah, it was really good. Me and Tracy played that, and we played it 2-player and had a fantastic time. It's a really good game. So Season 0 is probably just more of the same. I've been avoiding spoilers, so I've not really looked into it much, but it's a kind of prequel to Season 1. It's got like a Cold War theme.
Yeah, and instead of diseases coming around the board, I mean, in the initial game before it all starts changing, you've got various, you're all American agents, and instead of diseases as Soviet agents around the board, you've got to try and go and tackle instead of solving diseases, which is a very different theme. I mean, it may turn into diseases later on. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a bit of a departure. It's obviously the same system and the same kind of idea behind it, but I think they've with Season 2 that was a bit of a departure as well, wasn't it? It's a slightly different way of looking at it. So if you played Pandemic a lot, it's something new to get your teeth into, and I think this is a similar sort of thing for Season 0. If you've played a lot of Pandemic, it's not just more of the same. It's some new ideas and some new challenges that are going to be in there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be getting that. Probably just play it 2-player myself and Paula again, rather than getting a group together, but you never know.
I played Season 1 2-player, and then Season 2 we were playing 4-player, and there wasn't much difference really. It worked just as well either way. Season 1, without giving too much away, you kind of stuck with the same characters, so we didn't really change ground characters very much. But Season 2, with us being 4 players, we've had a bit more choice and variation in that side of it, but I don't think we missed out on anything. I think it was pretty much the same kind of experience. So yeah, it works really well as a 2-player, and hoping that Season 0 does as well.
Oh god, that bit in October in Season 1 was amazing.
Shh. It's been out a couple of years now, hasn't it? Pandemic Season 1, so
yeah,
most people who wanted to play it have probably played it by now. So it is still available as well. You can still play it.
I think we're allowed to say that Darth Vader is Luke's father by now. I mean,
yeah,
but I'm not sure about Pandemic spoilers.
Okay. So on to games that we've been playing recently. So even though I've not been meeting at the club, we've still been playing games. People have been putting pictures on Facebook and things like that, and on the forums of games that we've been playing. So that's good. One particular game that me and Tracy have been playing at home is Memoir 44. So this is a bit of an older game. This is from 2004. It's designed by Richard Borg. Takes between 30 and 60 minutes and plays between 2 and 8 players. So in the base box, it's just a 2-player game, generally, but it does go up to 8 with some of the expansions and the overlord maps and things like that. So Memoir 44 is a historical war game based on World War II. And, there's a board which is made up of, hexes, and you've got a box full of terrain tiles and little green army men and tanks and artillery and things like that. So you have scenarios in the book. So there are 16 scenarios in the base game, each one slightly different and a different layout, different goals. In the first one, I think there's a bridge you have to capture, and then it goes on to like beach landings. There's a battle for Marie-Glisse, there's Omaha Beach, Pegasus Bridge, all sorts of scenarios in there. So the way the game works is the board, the actual play area is split up into 3 portions. There's a central area, a left-hand flank and a right-hand flank. And there's a deck of cards that both players share. So you get a hand of these cards, and the cards say activate all your units in, say, for example, the centre, or activate 3 units on the left flank, or 2 units on the right flank. So you can activate these units. You move them around. You can shoot at the other player. You roll dice to find out if you hit them or not. There's various little tweaks about terrain. So if you can hide in sort of woods and things like that, there's sandbags and things that tweak whether you're more likely to hit the other player. And basically the goal is to get a certain number of victory points, and the victory points are tallied up by either taking out your opponent's units or capturing control objectives, which might be like a bridge or a certain building or something like that. So we played a few scenarios of this, and we've really enjoyed it. It's a fairly quick game. It took us between 30 and 40 minutes probably to play most of the scenarios. It's quite quick to play. It's fairly straightforward. It's not like massively huge on rules or anything. Most of the rules are on the little cards, so you get some like little cards to tell you what the scenario is. So if you're not sure what the sandbags do, there's a little card that tells you how it affects your dice rolls, things like that. So you can plan using those. There's a kind of restriction, and the decisions come into effect where you get the actual cards. So you only get 4 or 5 cards in a game, depending on the scenario, and the cards dictate where you can move. So you might want to really move on the centre or on the left flank, but you've only got cards for the right flank. So that kind of limits your decisions, and you have to take that into effect.
Sort of mirroring the idea of communication breakdowns in the middle of a battle. Like, you really want to order those people, but you haven't got the messenger.
Yeah. The idea behind it is that you don't get overall control instantly of all your troops. You kind of have to relay messages through to your officers and things like that. So there's a bit of fog of war there where you've got a kind of overall plan and overall strategy of what you want to do, but you are kind of limited. But you do rattle through the cards fairly quickly. So even if you don't get a particular card that you need. You can always, you'll usually get more cards. You get another card at the end of your turn. So there's special event cards. So these event cards can be things like activate your artillery or all your tanks or things like that. So they come into play. They're quite powerful, and they can be decisive in some of the battles. So we've really enjoyed it.
I've never played Memoir 44, but we have played The Great War, which is a similar system for First World War battle. But I'd like to play Memoir 44, the big 8-player version where you got 4 players on each team and 1 player as the overall commander.
It does sound fun.
Left, middle, or right.
Yeah,
sounds crazy. That'll be again an event game, even though it's a bit shorter than Twilight Imperium.
Yeah, even at 2-player, it does feel quite epic. Even though you're only it's just you and an opponent, it does feel quite a big. Because of the grand scale of the map and the tanks and moving tanks and troops around, it does feel like a proper, like something you can get your teeth into, even though the rules are fairly simple. I quite like the historical information in the scenarios. So for each scenario, they're all based on real life battles. So it gives you, a few paragraphs of who the commanders were and what the events were leading up to that and things like that. So that's really good. And I also managed to pick up the scenario book as well, so you can get the scenario book as a PDF online. I think it's a bit tricky to pick up in real life, but you can pick it up, and I managed to get that as well, and that's going to expand it out even more. So again, it's just for the base game, but it gives you like a campaign, so you can start off with a couple of battles, and then depending how it goes, you go into a different battle. It kind of forks. So if you win this battle, you go to this battle, but if you lose, you go to a different one. So that's going to be interesting to play through as well. But like I said, there are 16 in the base game, and we've played probably 7 or 8 of those so far. We wanted to get to one of the beach ones, so you could do one of the beach landings. That was really good fun. So
you thought working through them in order?
Yeah. They start off. The first scenario that you play is to 4 points, so it's like a really short game, and you just have infantry on the map, so it kind of teaches you how the infantry move. And, how the terrain works and things like that. And then the next scenario one adds in a couple of extra things. And then the third one adds in tanks. So it kind of builds you up to sort of putting all this stuff in there. It's quite good when
games do that. You have a sort of training session.
Yeah.
Where you build up to the full game.
So I like that as well. You can make up your own as well. I think there's stuff online that you can put there's like online building tools where you can make your own up. There's plenty of fan-made scenarios. Like I said, there's extra expansion books, official books. There's all sorts of stuff in there. So it's got a lot of longevity, I think. Loads of expansions are out for it as well. And I think they are reprinting some of them. So historically, I think some of them have been quite difficult to get hold of. But they are reprinting some of the expansions that have been difficult to get. So I really enjoyed it. I was really surprised because with it being an older game, I thought it might be a bit clunky or a bit showing its age, but it feels like a brand new game. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. It's fun. It's strategic. It's really well produced. The little miniatures and everything are great. The terrain, the maps, all the artwork and everything's really good. So I really enjoyed it, and it's a good little game. Memoir 44.
I think within the board game hobby, there's a sort of sub hobby of war gamers who have their own little corner in conventions and have sort of massive battles over really well crafted terrain things and moving hundreds of little chits around, and generally older men with beards. Not all, but you know. But I think Memoir 44 sort of crosses that boundary into something that anyone in a hobby can pick up and play and have fun with.
Yeah.
Still having all that historical accuracy that the proper grognards appreciate.
Yeah.
Is grognard the right word?
It is now.
Okay.
Is that something you just made up?
Yeah. No, it's definitely a word. I don't know if it's excited for that.
So I'm going to Google that. You can tell us what you've been playing.
Well, I've been playing, I think we mentioned last time the Spiel des Jahres. I've been playing one of the games that we mentioned that I finally got around to trying The Crew.
Oh, yeah.
Or Die Crew. The Crew now. Yeah, which is the cooperative trick-taking game. I think this was in the Kennerspiel. Did it win? Not sure.
I think it won. Yeah,
anyway,
I'm
it's
not
very
checked.
good.
Yeah.
So it's listed on the box as being from 3 to 5 players with also a variant for 2 players. And we've just been playing it with a 2-player variant. And it is really good. I think in game design, sometimes, often in the playtest sessions, you get a prototype that it works perfectly in your head, and then you look at your cards and you go, I see why this doesn't work. This was exactly the opposite feeling of this. You read the rules for The Crew, and you picked up your cards and go, oh, I see where the game is now. Because suddenly you're thinking, I've got to do this, to do that, which is really a really lovely moment. The way it works is it's the standard trick-taking thing of everyone's got to play a card. Whoever puts down the first card of a trick, that determines what suit you're playing in, and everyone has to follow that suit if they can. And then whoever's got the highest card, puts down the highest card of that suit, wins the trick. If they don't have anything in that suit, they can throw anything, and one sort of card is a trump, so that if you don't play the suit but play a trump card, then that would win the trick, unless someone plays a higher trick. So that's a standard thing of trick-taking games for centuries. But this is the first one I've seen of where it's cooperative trick-taking, which is you're not just trying to win, you're trying to ensure that certain objectives are met. So that player has to make sure that at some point during the game, they win a trick containing this card, while that other player has to win a trick containing that other card.
Right.
The 5 orange, and I've got to win a 2 green, or something. So you've got to look at your cards and work out how to make that happen. Like, I've got the 2 green in my hand, but I've got to make sure that at some point, Paula gets to win that card in a trick. And there's 50 different missions in the book, starting with a really basic thing, like there's one objective. Someone's got to win one thing, which is really easy to do. It's just an introductory game, like you had with Memoir 44, where you had sort of gradually introducing harder and harder things. But in this, it starts off really basic, and then you've got one objective, and then the next mission you got like 2 objectives, and the next mission you got 2 objectives got to be done in a certain order. So that one's got to be won in a trick at some point before this one's won in a trick. And they get harder and harder as you go through. You have to make sure that one person gets through the entire game without winning any tricks at all. Things like that. So, and every time you look at your cards and think, how are we going to achieve this?
Yeah.
And it was a really nice game experience. We've only gone through the first 4 missions so far. In the 2-player variant of it, you've got your own hand. I've got my hand, Paul's got her hand, and there's an extra player, Jasper. No, so Jarvis. Why could I forget Jarvis? Who's got the rest of the cards? And some of them are face up and some of them are face down here, and whoever is the mission commander for that turn gets to choose which card Jarvis plays to the trick.
Okay.
So it's almost simulating having a third player, but with an extra few wrinkles. Like if that card that you need is one of the face down ones that Jarvis has got, that's going to be a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we're looking forward to discovering more of the missions I think it's got to be a fun one. I want to try it with real people as well.
How many does it go up to? What's the maximum you can play players?
I think it's up to 5.
5, right? Okay. And it's cooperative, isn't it? So you're all kind of working together and trying to. Do you think?
Yeah.
If you played it a couple of times, and if you've played like the first 3 or 4 scenarios, if you were starting with a new group, or if you were playing with 5 players, would you start at the beginning, or would that be too easy for you? Would you jump in at like the third
possibly.
mission or something?
As I said, there's a campaign book where you can work through all 4 missions, getting gradually harder, or you can just pick one from randomly in the middle if you want.
Right.
And there's in the campaign book you can sort of write in each one how many tries it took you to do it, whether you used your special help thing at the start, which enables you to pass cards to each other.
So if you fail, you can just try that same mission again.
Yeah.
To try and do it. Right, okay, yeah.
But you mark in a book that you've had to have a second attempt. So. But I'm always... I don't know if we'll do that, because I'm... Apart from the Pandemic Legacy things, I'm always kind of loath to write in any game materials.
Yeah, you could always...
I mean, what if I want to sell this on to someone else and they open it up and they say, oh, someone's written it.
Yeah, that might be the idea. You could always write it on something else, can't you?
We might just play it.
I've not played many trick-taking games, so it'd be interesting to try this one. Is it similar style to like the Mind or the game or something like that? Is it just like cards in a box? Is it quite small?
It is quite small, yeah. Not quite as small as those. Because you've got the all the cards that you play with, plus smaller cards which are the objective cards, plus several tokens that you can use for communication. So at one point during the game, you can use your communication to say, I have this card, and it is either the highest card I've got, you put your token at the top, or the only card I've got, or the lowest card you've got, put your token at the bottom. So that's a bit of communication that you can give, otherwise you can't say what's in your hand at all.
It was the Kennerspiel winner, that one.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And deserving it is.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't actually played any of the other Kennerspiel, but this is a good one. They know the stuff, the spiel is yours.
Yeah, they do, yeah. I've been playing one of the nominees, but I've not really played it enough yet to review it. It's My City. I picked that one up, so
I want to try that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that. We've done the first couple of missions on that, but looking forward to...
That's a sort of legacy-ish thing as well.
Yes, yeah. That's got stickers and boxes and envelopes and things in it, yeah. Okay, cool. So another game that I've been playing recently is Magic the Gathering. This is an online game. So obviously, we've not been able to meet up recently. I've drifted into online gaming, and there's quite a good implementation, which is the Arena. It's called Magic the Gathering Arena. So I've been playing a few games of that. I found it's really nice production. It's got all really nice graphics, and it's like really up to date. All the interface is like dead easy. You can hover your mouse over the cards, and it tells you what they all do and things like that. I found that it's got the same old problems as Magic has, though. It's got random cards that you get given you. So if you want to build your own decks, you're kind of limited. You have to sort of play loads and loads and loads to get the cards you want, or there are like wild cards you can get that you can turn into a particular card if you want. So that's a bit of a downside. And then the other downside is the actual design itself. So it's quite an old game. I think it was like 94, 95 when it initially came out. And it's been, redesigned and retweaked and upgraded. And it's still going strong now. There's still quite a lot of players out there. I found it a bit frustrating after a few games because you have lands in your deck that you're trying to get out, and they give you the resources to play your cards. And you don't necessarily always get what you want. You like in newer games like Keyforge, you pick a house and you can play whatever cards you want from that house. And, people are kind of in Dominion, you get like, coins in your deck and they gradually upgrade as you go along. But with Magic, you're kind of fixed to what comes out of your deck. So you shuffle a deck of cards, and if you get three lands in your first hand, then yeah, brilliant, we'll keep that. But then you don't get any more. So you're kind of stuck. I think it was fun for the first like dozen or so games, and then it kind of wore off a bit, and I don't think I really want to play it again much more, to be honest.
Did you ever play the physical version? Did you have a?
I've got a few
cards.
Yeah, I've got a few decks, and that's probably my preferred way to play it. Is to just get a fixed deck, and play against another fixed deck. and that way, you it is kind of equal in that you're playing against each other, and they are quite balanced. So yeah,
I've never been tempted to get involved because it just seems so. It seems kind of intimidating having these 25 years of history and many thousands of cards out there, and people have been playing it for their entire gaming life.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit hard to a bit of a hurdle to get into it.
Yeah, it's one of those lifestyle games where if you play it, you kind of that's the main thing that you play, and to be good at it, that's all you can play. You can't spend time doing anything else. You've got to go after the cards that you want, buying them.
Maybe online is the way to go though for that, because I wouldn't want to sort of turn up to a Magic night at Patriot Games and say, "Hi, can you teach me to play?"
Yeah,
but maybe just going online and. Do you get access to all the cards then? If you're online, you can pick what you want, or
you get a couple of starting decks. So you get like 4 or 5 different decks that are made up of different colours. As you play, you get more and more decks, so you kind of build up a library of different decks.
Oh, right.
You can actually go and
earn experience points.
Yeah, you can go in and tweak them as well. So you can you get cards for winning games. So you get cards and you can put those into your library, and you can build decks out of those as well. Like I say, you have to do a lot to actually, get the cards that you want. So it's it's a bit of a grind to get, really good cards, or particular cards that you're after. Whereas in real life, you can just go online and just buy singles. You can buy whatever you want. I did put a message on Facebook about Magic and see if we got any players in the group. And one guy answered, Robert. He said that that was what put him off a bit. It was the cost of it. So yeah, if you're just picking randomly cards out of a deck, you're not necessarily going to get what you want. And then if you do know what you want, you have to go sort of online and buy them. And, the commons are pretty cheap. The commons are like pennies really, but when you get to the rares and the mythics, you're talking like 10, 15, 20 pounds for one card. It just gets ridiculous. So the online game, it is free to play. You don't have to pay anything to download it or start playing. And like I said, I did quite enjoy it for the first few games, but then it kind of starts wearing a bit thin then. And I think there are a lot of newer, better games that do the same kind of thing a lot better.
I think I heard someone saying that if it was designed today, it would definitely have had, instead of having lands which just provide thing and nothing else, provide mana, you would have had multi-use cards that you could use either for power or for providing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird mechanic. Like no new game these days would have that. It's like I say, if you look at Keyforge or Dominion or one that I talked about recently, Res Arcana, that's basically a card game where you're paying resources to get stuff. That's a brilliant game, full of combos, full of like interesting decisions. But you never get stuck. You never get put into a corner and sort of where these are the cards I've got. I can't really do anything. You've always got choices where. Yeah, most of the time in Magic you do, that's fine. But then on the other occasion where things don't work, then, there's nothing you can do about it, really.
A bit lack of flexibility there.
That's my experience. I think there is obviously a lot to say. A lot of good things about Magic. There's a social aspect that we've not really been involved with. Like you say, people.
Well, obviously it's lasted so long. There must be something there.
People meet at the clubs and play games against each other. There are tournaments you can play in. Various different variations, Commander and things like that. But yeah, for me, I think I'll probably just play a little bit and then go back to board gaming. And you've been playing another classic, another old game.
Well, yeah, it's got possibly even slightly longer history than Magic the Gathering. It's a sort of a miniatures-based war game. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's chess.
Oh yeah.
I just been getting into this randomly for the last couple of months. We've had at Aircon, which was the last convention of the year before everything happened. I randomly decided to buy a chess clock.
Okay.
So this last week or so, we've been having a couple of blitz 5-minute games, just me versus Paula.
Okay, yeah.
Of chess, which I think is probably the best way of playing. Not memorising openings and spending an hour staring at the board, but I've got to do something. I'll move the pawn. Yeah. And sometimes you lose, and sometimes you win, and it's great.
How does that work then? Do you get like 5 minutes for the entire game, or per turn, or?
5 minutes for the entire game is the way we've been playing it. I mean, you can set
the entire game. Right.
Yeah. Well, to make all your moves, I've got 5 minutes. You've got 5 minutes. But yeah, we can set it to whatever time we like. We've just been doing 5 minutes. You can say, "Oh, we've got 10 minutes. Let's have a game."
So do you find you get a full game in that time? Then do you get like to the end, or
Well, you have to. You just have to move something. Don't think too hard.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because chess. It's obviously got a lot of depth because people keep on discovering new things about it. The official start date on Board Game Geek lists all the games and the date that they were published, and for chess it's got like 14 something. But I think it's been sort of variants going for 1,000 years. But in all that time, people keep on discovering new tactics, new ways to do it. So there's obviously a lot of depth there.
Yeah.
But the problem with it is that you can win by memorising things. If you memorise the opening books, you can just win against someone who hasn't done that, which is a bit of a shame for people who just want to play games for fun, like me. I don't want to spend all that time actually working at a game. I just want to play it. But I also accidentally stumbled across a weird 1980s BBC programme. I was looking for something else on Amazon Prime, and I was looking for a documentary about board game design, and I got the name slightly wrong, and ended up with this chess programme from 1980.
All right.
Called The Master Game, which was on BBC, and it just had a sort of mini tournament of 8 top chess players. And they did have top chess players. They're like number 2 in the world, and they had 7 grandmasters and one young, fresh-faced 15-year-old schoolboy called Nigel Short, who I'm sure is going to go far. And and we just sort of sat and watched all this. It's got commentary all the way through. They've done it in a weird way where it's sort of like you're hearing the thoughts of the players. So they have a position and then a picture of Tony Miles sitting there thinking about his position, saying, "Oh yes, I can. I've got a lot of play on the queen side, but I don't like what he's doing with his knight." I mean, and it was weird and 80s and a bit janky because obviously the tapes that had been given to Amazon to put on their site hadn't been the sort of finished product, but had got like bits of the behind the scenes production bits, and then it cuts to the credits, and then back to the the clapperboard thing. Take one. It's a bit weird, but that was fun. And then reading about all the crazy soap opera of 1980s chess players. One of the guys commenting on it, Bill Hartston, was commenting on games with Tony Miles, and then later on I was looking him up and realised that Bill Hartston's wife had actually left him for Tony Miles the week year before.
Right.
And then Nigel Short wrote the world's bitchiest obituary of Tony Miles in 2001. It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was, chess players are just insane. It's a crazy game for crazy people. But if you don't take it too seriously and play without all the, without taking all the effort and without taking an hour for your moves, and it can actually be quite a good game.
Yeah. We do. I did see before we broke up for the club. I did see a few people playing chess there. There were a few people who brought in some chess boards, so we do have a few members.
I think the University Chess Club sort of
they come down a couple
had
of
a bit
times.
Of a crossover.
There is a proper chess club in Sheffield as well that plays. I've seen some of their posts on Facebook, and they have regular tournaments and stuff online. With chess as well, you can get some really nice sets as well, can't you? You can get some beautiful, like antique, really nice ones that look fantastic in your living room.
Yeah, you can get some arty ones.
Or you can just get Simpsons ones.
Or you can get that. Yes.
Your preference.
You can get something for $1.99 from local news agent, or you can buy one for £1,000.
I really want to play chess now. I'm going to look up one of those online. I'm sure there's like online, like games you can you just go to a website and play online.
Chess.com is one.
I haven't played since I was about 12, so I might be a bit rusty.
Yeah. How's the horsey thing move again?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried Go? Because that's the other
great
classic. That's different because I think with the further you get into chess, the worse it gets as a game, if you see what I mean. But I think Go is a sort of endless pool of discovering new ideas. I think that's a different thing. But I dabbled in it slightly, and as a regular group that meets up to play Go in Sheffield. They used to be at Queen's Head, but and I went there once or twice. But that's a game that I think would have to be I think you either have to devote lots of time to it or not bother.
Right.
Because it's just, there's so much there. It's, Shut Up and Sit Down did a review of Go, just not long ago, a couple of weeks ago. And that's a good place to start, because it's an amazing game, but doesn't really fit into my lifestyle. I'd want to devote an entire life to it, but I've got all these other games to play. So, yeah.
Presumably that's another one that is quite easy to sort of play online, or either against a real opponent or a computer or on your phone or something like that.
Yeah, because all you need is a grid and lots of black and white things to place on it.
Yeah. No, I've not actually tried Go, but yeah, it looks a bit boring for me. Give me something with some miniatures in it and some dice instead.
Wonder if anyone's tried painting their chess pieces like they do with miniatures game.
Oh, yeah. So, moving on then, we better crack on. We're running out of time here.
Oh, yes.
We've got an interview next with Ellie Dix. Ellie runs the Dark Imp, and she's a designer, and she's designed lots of games, publishes them herself as well. So I've had a quick chat with her, and here we are now. This is Ellie Dix. Okay, so thank you for joining me, Ellie. I'm joined by Ellie Dix. Ellie's the manager of Dark Imp Games. She's an author, wrote a book, you're a YouTuber, teacher, game designer, a mum. So my first question is probably, how do you find time to do anything else? How do you find time to sleep or eat?
Well, I'm quite productive, but also I'm fairly obsessive, and I suppose part of it is not being a very good multitasker. So when I sit down, I don't try and do lots of things at once. I'm always just focusing on one thing. So if I'm with the kids, then I'm with them. And if I'm writing, I'm writing. And if I'm recording for YouTube, that's what I'm doing. And I plan my time fairly well, but also my kids are a bit older. So they're not as needy as they used to be. And I've been really pleased during lockdown that that's the case, because, my eldest is 17 and the younger one is 13, and they don't need me that much. So when I see them, we're playing board games. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good to know. So you're the manager of Dark Imp Games. Tell us a bit about Dark Imp. What was...
So the Dark Imp is a board game publishing company specialising in games for families with children aged 8 and up. We don't specialise in children's games. Quite specifically, we're making games that are going to appeal to adults just as much as they'll appeal to children. Yeah. So that's really the background for what we're doing and why.
Cool. There's a lot of stuff on the website. I had a quick look earlier, and there's all sorts on there. There's like full-size board games, and then there's puzzles, and there's various different things that they have on there. There's all sorts of stuff, isn't there? Yeah.
And we started off by doing the Puzzle Box, which is a board game and puzzle box, and that's sort of the hero product, I suppose. The kind of the leading product, which is really aimed at bringing new families into the hobby. So it gives them a themed box of original board games and puzzles, and everything sort of hangs on a theme. So it might be donuts and cake or gardens and chicken. There's an asteroids one coming out later in the year. And the idea is that they'll open it together as a family, take all the bits out, and they'll play them over time. And of course, they can keep everything and play them lots of times. But increasingly, we've been producing things that are on unexpected games, on unexpected things, or in unusual places. So, and this is all really to do with hooking new people into the hobby. So we do board games on coasters. And we are doing a Kickstarter in September for board games in a cracker. So a Christmas cracker, a giant Christmas cracker that will go in the middle of the table. And there's going to be 6 different games using the same components in there. And it's instead of your crappy, chuck away crackers with nothing interesting and very anticlimactic. So this is one big cracker with loads of stuff in. And it's a sort of game design kit as well, because all of the different games use the same components. And we also produce games on big, giant A3 placemats. And all of these, all of those games, the placemat games, can be played with any number of people. And they're roll and write games, so you can have a whole class of kids playing them, or you can have a massive family playing them, and you can also play them on Skype. You could be socially distanced or Zoomed or Zoom to play them there as well.
Yeah, I had a look at the website and the puzzle box. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff in there, isn't there? There's like puzzles and there's games, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that you get like in one package. It's really unusual.
Yeah, it's a real variety.
Yeah,
I've got teenagers myself, and it's all about providing stuff that will hook in teenagers and pre-teens into spending more time as a family. That's the starting point for everything. And I know that things like this, where there are lots of different kind of cool stuff to unpack and look at and play over time, those things work.
Yeah, and you mentioned about your coaster games as well and the player mat games. They're a really good idea. That's probably what started off this initial interview anyway. But they're like a beer mat, kind of like what you get in a pub that you put your pint on. But it's like a game on one side, and then if you turn it over, there's the instructions on the other, so you can
exactly.
And there's loads of different games, different types of games as well, like say family style games and puzzle games and word games, things like that. Again, there's a lot of variety in there, and
there's a lot of variety, and that's sort of as well. I've got 6 coaster games at the moment, and they come in a sort of little holder, and they're great for going on holiday. They fit in your back pocket if you want them to. And all you need, for some of the games you don't need anything except the coaster. For some games you need pencil and paper. And the idea is that they're all completely different. So there's a couple of cooperative games, there's a deduction game, there's a sort of economic game, there's a word game, and there's an action selection game where you're sort of creating your own farm of aliens. There's a real range of different things. But I've had some wonderful feedback, and it's really, the idea of these is that, of course, they can get out to lots more people. Obviously, I want gamers to play the games because they're designed to be really good games. And I'm from a board gaming background. But I'm trying to get mechanics and ideas and concepts that we would see in hobby games more into the mainstream, trying to get these really good games out to other people. So my idea for the coasters was, if a family doesn't play many games, it's not exactly daunting to pick up a cardboard coaster and read the rules on the back of that coaster, and you could be playing in a couple of minutes. That's a really low risk, easy to access game, and it might just hook them in because they are simple to learn but not usually simple to win.
Yeah, that's a really good point actually, because sometimes if you get like a game out and it's full of like counters and components and a big board, and you have this, that you have this play mat and all that kind of stuff, sometimes that's a bit daunting, isn't it? Especially for like family style games, like you say, that you're trying to aim at, whereas these are like you say, literally just a beer mat with, you might need a bit of extra paper or whatever to write on, but people can use the phones or whatever, can't they?
Exactly. And what's really
it's really accessible.
Yes, and part of that, part of the problem with hooking new people into the hobby, families particularly, is that they're a bit daunted by the volume of things within a box, but often the biggest objection that I hear from families as to why they don't play games, the biggest excuse is lack of time. And of course, families are very busy. Generally, when it's not lockdown, everybody's doing their own thing, and parents are having to take the kids into lots of different places, and time is really short for many families. So you can't look at one of these coaster games and say, I don't have time to play that. One of them, Alien Farm, the deduction game, plays in about 5 minutes. So, everybody's got that time, and you can put it in the car glove compartment and play it when you're out. So I'm trying to find ways to overcome the objections that families have, and put them in, really.
Yeah, yeah. And the playmat games, as Ollie mentioned, do they have the rules on them as well somewhere, or are they?
They do.
Like,
They have. So
yeah.
there are two placemat games at the moment, and both of them are on the same pad. So they're like giant roll and write pads. They're like these huge A3 desk pad type things, and each leaf in the pad has one game on one side, and on the reverse it has a different game.
All right.
So if you buy a pad of them, you get both games, and they are both roll and write games. They have the instructions on the side where the game is, and so everybody can see it in front of them. And as I said, these are for any number of players. So you only need standard D6 dice to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which most people would have sort of rattling around somewhere, won't they?
They would, but
again, it's the low barrier to entry. It's not like you have to find a D12 and a D20 somewhere.
Exactly. It's a low barrier to entry, particularly as you can now just ask Google to roll dice for you.
True, yeah. You can ask Alexa and things like that, can't you? Yeah.
Exactly.
So I wanted to talk to you a bit about the design process as well that you have going on. Sure. When you're thinking about a game, how what comes first? Is it kind of a mechanic where you think you've got a good idea for a game, or do you have like a theme first, an idea about it's going to be aliens or something like that, and then you build a game around that? How do you generally come to the idea of making a particular type of game?
Usually it's the mechanic that comes first for me. And I always want to have a theme because, particularly for families, I think it's quite important. But sometimes I think of a mechanic and the theme comes very quickly after. But other times I have a mechanic and I'm not absolutely sure how it's going to fit. And I might have to do a big, kind of brainstorming session where I'm thinking, what am I actually doing here? What does that lend itself to? And then the rest of the game will come after the theme. So one central mechanic, and it might not end up being central, but it certainly starts off being central. One central mechanic might lend itself to the theme, which then will pad out the kind of mechanisms that work in the game and how everything fits together. That's almost, probably 80% of the things that I've done have been like that. But I do create these themed boxes. And of course, if I've got a game, for example, I've got a game called Uranus, which is currently, it's made it through to the semi-finals of the board game workshop design contest.
Oh wow, yeah.
Which is pretty cool, and that's about alien races on the moons of Uranus, and exactly. Yes, slightly tongue-in-cheek with the name. And then I was trying to create it because that's going to go in Puzzle Box 3. Yeah. And I was trying to, and I wanted another game to go in that one as well. And actually I have this speed game called Countdown Confusion, but it wasn't really themed. And then of course I just had this inspiration. Of course, it's the countdown before you blast off. So with tweaks, it's turned into this sort of astronaut themed game. It's fairly loosely themed, but it kind of works. You say blast off in it, there's this kind of down going on. But yeah, this speed card drafting, confusing set collection game, which is fun. With creating the boxes of a theme, the idea really is to provide different kinds of games within the same box. So you're looking at a theme, loosely looking at a theme, and the games within that are going to be all quite different game experiences.
Yeah, so I noticed that a lot of your games have a very similar kind of visual style and a very similar kind of artwork on them. Who's the artist who draws the pictures?
Yeah, Anastasia Kartanovenko. She's a brilliant artist who is based in Moldova, and she does the work on everything for me. So yeah, I found one that I like, and she does it.
Yeah.
And she's a graphic designer for everything as well. We've got a dream team of 3 girls doing everything.
Right. Yeah. Sounds great. Yeah. So I was going to ask about that actually, the graphic design as well. Is that how much impact do you have on that? Is that kind of come from playtesting, or do you just leave it to the artist to sort of design their best thing? Or?
I kind of manage the whole development process. So I create an art brief, which I send to the artist. The artist does her work first. I tell her exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And she comes back. Well, in fact, I don't tell her exactly what I want. Sometimes I'll say, this is what the game's about. I've got a few ideas about what could be on the front cover. Can you do your magic? And she'll come back with some concepts, which I will then pick from. And those concepts will be sort of line drawings. Yeah. And then she may do several revisions, but we get there in the end. And of course, if you've seen the front of the boxes, the artwork goes within the Dark Imp shape, so that there's a sort of brand consistency across all of the games.
Yeah, I did notice that. Yeah, it's really cool. It's got the kind of that bold kind of shape on all of them, hasn't it? Yeah, which is really good. Yeah.
And then the graphic designer similarly. So I send the graphic designer a brief, and it's very, very clear exactly what I want her to do. I've sent her all the prototypes, so she's got pictures of everything, all the files from what I've created. She's got all the artwork, and she's got the rule book word for word. In draft, draft format, in a sort of Word document with details of all the images that need to go there. So I kind of oversee very heavily the whole process, and there are lots of revisions. I mean, we've just got the Uranus rulebook down by quite a few pages, which is good, because that has to be submitted as part of the competition.
You also produce all the games yourself as well. So how do you do that? Is that
I've tried to kind of create my own way of doing that, because the issue, of course, with using board game manufacturers is that you have to commit to such high minimum numbers. And when you are starting out as a new board game publisher, and you're just growing your customer base, that's quite daunting. And particularly in my situation, where what I'm trying to do is create mixed boxes of games and a mini range, really, fairly quickly. So I'm working with a local printer who does almost all the printing, does the punch board, everything. So and he's brilliant, because he'll show me every single thing he'll do mocked up versions of every single thing, and he'll do them many times until we get them right. So I spent a long time looking for printers that would do punchboard in the UK. It was quite a journey.
I can imagine.
And now I've got this really good relationship with this printer, and I've done things like, I've made adjustments, like I have standard box sizes, a big box size and a tin box size, and I buy those boxes in bulk. And the big box has been customized to me. It's got a debossed logo, the Dark Imp, on it, and the tin box is it's a tin, so and both of those boxes have sleeves for the different games. So the artwork is on the sleeve, which goes over the box, and those kinds of things help to enable me to do smaller print runs without it being just exorbitantly expensive. So you just have to think a bit, a little bit more creatively, really.
You're also an author as well. You've written a book. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yep, the book's called The Board Game Family, Reclaim Your Children from the Screen. It was published last year by Crown House, and it's really a how-to guide for parents who'd like to introduce and integrate board gaming into family life. I mean, it's got quite a lot of information in that's relevant for families that already board game, but the primary driver behind it was to be a sort of a roadmap, I suppose, to getting the family to play board games. Before I set up the Dark Imp, I ran an education company for 15 years, and we were training teachers how to manage behaviour. And so I know quite a lot about behaviour management, and that translates into helping parents to manage behaviour around the game table. So there's quite a lot in the book, which is really behaviour stuff. So, when you ask people why they don't play games, sometimes it's because they haven't got time. Sometimes it's because they're expensive. Sometimes it's because they can't get the kids off the phone. And sometimes it's, oh my God, there's too many arguments and I don't know how to deal with it. So this book really is lots of advice and help and tips, and then loads of games that work well for families. And not just the ones you might think, but much more complex ones than most people would think of as being purely family games. So yeah, we play a lot of very complicated games at home, and children are perfect, and we have done for years, and children are perfectly capable of dealing with complex games, but they can't deal with sitting around for 10 minutes in between turns. You have to pick your game carefully.
Have you got any recommendations on family games? Any you played recently that you're enjoying, or any favourites, any classics that you enjoy playing?
Gosh. Well, there are so many that work really well, and I think the advice really is the same for families as anyone else. You play what suits you as a group. And for one family, that might be one thing. And for another family, that might be something totally different. Some families really get on well with party games, and other families not so much. They're more into the sort of strategy stuff. We've been playing, Camel Up is always a good one. Cult Express we've been playing again recently. There are some that come out again and again. I mean, Terraforming Mars is the one that hits the table most here, but I wouldn't say that it was a family game. It's great for for families who like playing games. And what else have we been playing? We've been playing. I often play 2-player games with the kids. You don't always have to have a big family game night. It's about finding moments where you can play with one of them sometimes. So you've got time with just that one other person. So I've been playing quite a lot of. There's a game called Paris, La Cité de la Lumière. I don't know if you've come across it. It's a Cosmos 2-player.
I've heard of it, yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's honestly one of my favourite games at the moment, and I think it's gone a little bit under the radar for everybody. Yeah. But I picked it up at Essen last year, and it's total favourite. I really love it.
I'm going to have to try and find that one then somewhere. I think they have it at our local board game cafe. I think they sell it.
Okay.
So I might pick up a cup from there. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. I'm loving all that you're doing, and all the games and everything. They're brilliant. If people want to find you or get in touch, how do they go about finding you?
The website's thedarkimp.com, thedarkimp.com. I'm Ellie at thedarkimp.com. And on Twitter, I'm at Ellie Dix Tweets. And you can also find the YouTube channel if you just search for The Dark Imp.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks for it. Very nice to speak to you.
So Ellie has had 2 games reviewed in Tabletop magazine, which are Don't Count Your Chickens and one called Top Cake, and they've both got really favourable reviews. So, looking forward to trying those at some point. I actually got in touch with her because I bought some coaster games from her, some of the coaster games.
Oh, yeah, she does those, yeah.
Yeah, they're little coaster games, and they've got like a game on one side and rules on the other. And she does the bigger mat ones as well, so I bought some of those from her. But she does proper bigger games as well, and all sorts of stuff that on her website. So definitely check out Ellie. She's got loads of stuff on there.
Yeah, lovely person, Ellie.
Yeah.
I've met her once or twice online, but she's really knows her stuff about games as well.
Yeah. Okay, so on to the question of the week. So it's not really a question, it's more of a discussion, which Tom suggested, online conventions. So take it away, Tom.
So we just had Gen Con did an online version, was that last weekend or the weekend before?
Yeah, and, within the last week or so.
Coming up in a week and a bit from where I'm talking now, but I don't know when this podcast is dropping. We've got the UK Games Expo, which are doing their event virtually this year. And I think Essen's going to be doing something virtual later on as well. It's definitely one that all the big cons are trying to have some sort of thing going on when they can't do obviously the real in-person physical convention. And it's an interesting idea because it's in a way it's not providing what you'd normally get from a convention, but also it's giving people the option of attending cons that they otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like I would never have got to go to Gen Con normally, but I could have. Well, I didn't actually, but I could have joined in with the virtual Gen Con just as well as someone who lives in Indianapolis. So.
Yeah. Do conventions play a big part, don't they? Because there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. There are meeting up with your friends who you haven't seen for a while. There's publishers make announcements of these things. They release new games of these things. Kickstarters are there. There's a lot of stuff going on. And to move all that online, it must be a massive job. It must be huge to get all that, organised and transferred across.
I mean, obviously the seminars and things can be done through like conference calls and Zoom type things. So I can see how they can get those working. And the meeting your friends bit, that's where it kind of falls down, because they've got that replaced by sort of, Discord servers. So you sort of hang around in chat and say, hello, I'm here. But I don't know if that really doesn't sound like it's going to be the same sort of thing as just walking around and seeing someone playing a game at a table. Oh, I haven't seen you for ages. Yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah. I think there'd be more of that a convention where you kind of wander around and something might catch your eye. Whereas with if it's more online, perhaps you've got a schedule and you'll kind of know what you're looking for, perhaps rather than just something catching your eye and saying, oh yeah, that looks interesting. You'll kind of go towards the ones that you want to look at. Then maybe it'll work that way instead.
Yeah. One thing I like about the UK Games Expo virtual thing, they're going to try and recreate the sort of market hall thing, where you've got a little layout of stalls on the screen, and you've got you as your little meeple can walk down and sort of check out the stalls as you go along.
That's a good idea, yeah.
It's sort of going to be a sort of top-down 2D adventure version of the Expo Games Hall. It's I don't know how that's going to work, but it's nice that they're trying that, I think.
Yeah, I've seen a few things on YouTube where people put like tutorials up and demos and things like that where they show them there. So if you don't watch it on the actual day itself, you can catch up afterwards. Whereas I think in an online a real convention, they're not actually recorded, are they? They're just there for the day or the weekend or whatever, and then it's gone. Whereas if it's online, perhaps it's going to be there for a bit longer and you can catch up with it later on. If you're busy that week or, if you don't get a chance to look at it, you'll have something to look back on. The other thing is there are other advantages as well. So you won't have like the crowds, they get in there, the parking, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of do it at your own leisure and sort of look around the stuff you want in your own time.
Yeah, and there'll still be the possibility to meet up with people virtually and arrange to play games with them virtually.
Yeah.
On like Tabletop Simulator or Board Game Arena or whatever. So
like you say, a lot of them have got the Discord channels, haven't they? So you can sort of speak to people and join in games that are being organised.
There'll definitely be a lot of things happening, and the advantage is you can do it from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah.
I think there's in terms of the game launches, I think some games that would have been launched this year have been sort of put back and shelved for this year, and so there'll be less things launched than normal. But I think there will still be some that have been in the works and are going to be planned to launch.
Do you think conventions are more of a bigger event in America than they are over here? I watch the Dice Tower, and they usually cover all the conventions that are going off over there, and there's usually quite a lot, and they're usually quite expansive. Obviously, we've got bigger ones over here as well, and we have like Essen and various ones, like you say, in the UK as well, but they're probably not on the same kind of scale as over there.
Yeah, I think only UK Games Expo is up there with the big one from America. Obviously, Essen's the biggest. But yeah, all the rest of them are sort of... I mean, there's lots of little cons that go on around the place, like Tabletop Scotland and HandyCon and things. But I think they're more sort of get together to play games in a friendly sort of setting, kind of conventions. So I don't know exactly whether they can be replaced by anything. Yeah,
it's a bit of a shame really, because it's such a social hobby, isn't it? Everybody kind of likes to get together and meet their friends and play games and things, whereas at the moment we just can't do that. So it's a bit of a shame that all this kind of stuff's been cancelled. But people are finding ways around it, aren't they? People are playing online or organising other things, and...
I wonder, actually, if when things do get back so that we can have proper conventions again, whether all the experiments they've been doing with having virtual things will continue. So you'll have so maybe 2021 Gen Con and Expo and Essen will have the normal Games Hall, but also the online thing as well for people to. So someone in Australia can attend the UK Games Expo if they want.
Yeah, it would make sense, that, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that they've been putting into place that they might as well keep.
Yeah.
Since they've done the work of setting it up, they could keep it going. Which would be a nice... It might be a sort of a nice extra that comes out of all this. So next year we'll have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, hopefully.
We can hope.
Yeah.
I presume that all the seminars, since they're going to be over video link anyway, will be... they might as well record them, so they probably will all be available afterwards. So seminars at least will be viewable.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, because I've not really seen any of those, so it'd be interesting to see what they're like, what they talk about. Yeah. Okay. I think we've waffled on long enough, so thank you very much for joining me, Tom. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always.
And likewise.
We are Sheffield Board Gamers. We're not meeting at the moment, so keep an eye on Facebook and on YouTube and stuff, and we'll get together again as soon as we can. Thank you again, Tom, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye, Rick.
Bye.